Israel was created in 1948. It's not the place the Jewish nation was born. Now, in terms of being so it's not a homeland. You see, that's part of it. Zionism contravenes Judaism in many ways, and this is one of them. According to Zionism, as I said,
I listened to your speech, and it was
the land is a holy land, no matter who owns it.
Okay.
A homeland in Hebrew, modern Hebrew, they call it Eretz Moledet.
Okay.
The word means
Moledet, yes.
Moledet means where you were born.
Okay.
Where the nation was born. See, Israel claims that. It says on Israel's website, I think the Lieberman in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it says what Israel is to the Jews, what France is to the French, Japan is to Japanese, Israel is to the, finish that formula. Israel is to the what?
Well, you're going to say Israelis. I would say for the Jews.
Okay, so explain to me how Israel, I'm an American.
Yes, sir.
My mother's from, her family's from England.
Okay.
Russia on her mother's side. My father's from Poland. Explain to me how Israel is to the Jews what France is to the French. France created the French. Here's my question. France created the French. Without France, there is no French.
Okay.
Without Israel, there are Jews. So therefore, that's
wait. Without Israel, there are Jews.
Yes, but without France, there is no French.
But
France is the cause. French is the effect.
I understand.
Italy
Rabbi.
is the cause. But Israel's claiming that they are the cradle of Jewish identity, which is actually false. It's an identity theft. The Jews have an identity, they had an identity before Israel. Israel wants to change Jewish identity from a religion to a nationality, and not only to a nationality, the Kurds are a nationality and they have no state. But Israel makes two statements. Statement number one, that the Jews are a nationality, which is false. Statement number two, Israel is their state. Even if the Jews are a nationality, which we're not. What makes this country? I'm asking you.
I'm gonna answer you.
Okay, that was created in 1948, my nation.
It's your insurance policy, Rabbi. Okay. One second. I'm going to finish. I'm going to finish, and then I'm going to let you elaborate. Rabbi, we all know the atrocities of the Shoah. We all know the fate of Jews in Arab lands. All the Jews that were living in Arab lands. Now, if not for the state of Israel. If not for the state of Israel, what would be the fate of all those Jews? 1 second. During the Shoah, all the Jews that were living in Syria, in Morocco, in Yemen, in Tunisia, Jews that are persecuted all over the world. Well, if not for the state of Israel.
Rabbi, you're saying it's an insurance policy.
Yeah.
So first, that's not what Israel claims. Israel claims it's more than an insurance policy. It claims that it's the state of all Jews all over the world. Netanyahu came here to America, to Congress, when he spoke about Barack Obama's deal, and he said he represents all the Jews. Now that's not an insurance policy. All state does not represent me as a nationality.
Of course not.
So Israel makes that claim.
But if you were in a problem, Rabbi, if you had a problem, you could go to Israel.
I'll get to your point in a moment.
Thank you, Rabbi.
But first, Israel claims much more than being what you say they are. They say they are the state of all the Jews, they are the cradle of Jewish identity, and that's false. Even if they would be a safe haven, which I'll get to in a moment, they are not what they claim to be. And the fact that they claim to be that is actual attack on our version of Jewish identity. This is a fight over what the definition of a Jew is. According to Israel, Japan is to the Japanese what Israel is to the Jews. I say Japan is to the Japanese what Israel is to the Israelis.
Okay.
Yes, and we have nothing to do with we are a people not because of the state of Israel. Now, as far as your insurance policy is concerned,
I just have one more quick point to mention.
Go ahead.
So all the Haredim living in Israel, are they categorized as Israelis?
The ones that are Israeli citizens, sure.
All the Haredim, Degel, Aguda, Shas, all the Haredim. So they're Israelis.
Israeli citizens, sure.
Yeah, they're Israelis.
Born there, yes.
No, okay, so they're Israelis. Okay. Now address the insurance policy.
Okay. First, two things. Question for you. This insurance policy. So far, close to 30,000 Jews were killed in war and terrorism in Israel. Statistics show that Israel is the most dangerous place for a Jew to live where Jews live.
Is that a fact? Is that a fact? Well, I mean, okay.
Yeah, 80 times, you have an 80 times greater chance of getting killed in Israel because you're a Jew than anywhere in Europe in the last 20 years. Just do the math. I mean, Now, Here's my question. All these wars and terrorism, okay, this is a premium you pay for this insurance policy in case we're going to have to run to Israel. How many Jews do you think is worth having slaughtered to pay the premium for this insurance? At what point does this premium become too expensive? Is it worth 1 million Jews being killed, 2 million, 10 million? At what point? And two, who gets to make that decision?
Okay, my answer to you is this. Prior to the State of Israel, Jews are getting slaughtered in record numbers and higher numbers. I know you're going to say the Zionism caused the Shoah, but Jews are getting slaughtered in higher numbers prior to the founding of the state. So I mean, there was people hated Jews before Israel, Rabbi. And anti-Semitism is not a cause of Israel.
Wait, hold on. First of all, I asked your question. I'll get to that in a moment.
Sure, Rabbi.
But let's not switch the question.
No,
the question is, you say it's an insurance policy. I say there's a premium to pay for that insurance policy in wars. And right now, it's much safer to be in America as a Jew than it is in Israel.
How about Europe?
It's also safer to be in Europe as a Jew. Sure,
you can walk around in Europe with your hat and pants and everything.
I actually spent Shabbos in Sarcelles, right outside of Paris, maybe a month ago. And people told me, well, you know, you're going to go to France, you can't wear yarmulke in the street. Shabbos morning, everybody's walking around with their talis in their street. But it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is the statistics show wars, terrorism, Israel is more dangerous, anti-Semitism notwithstanding. So my question for you is, how much of a premium are you willing to pay? Do you think it's worth? How many Jews should be killed for this insurance policy in case there's a Holocaust and in case Israel is safe? Doesn't mean we'll be able to get there. The truth of the matter is, it could be, you know, if Iran, God forbid, gets a nuclear bomb and threatens Israel, they're coming here. We're not going there. I don't see my friends over here running into bomb shelters when the siren goes off. We don't have missiles over here. Now, if in the eventuality...
And I can argue with that, Rabbi. You have the Six-Day War, you have the Yom Kippur War.
That's all fine. And how many Jews were killed in those wars? Now, here's my question.
Go ahead, Rabbi.
Now, here's my question. How many Jews do you think is worth getting killed in wars for the premium for this insurance policy in case Israel ends up a safe place?
I don't think my answer to you is I don't think Jews are getting killed because of the state of Israel.
Statistics say not true.
Why is Satmar Hasidim getting, punched out in Williamsburg? Williamsburg is not Israel.
Oh, that's a good point. Why the Hasidim?
There is anti-Semitism plenty of places. The question is where it's worse. They're not blowing up Jews anywhere in the world like they are in Israel. Statistical fact.
Not in Argentina. Wait, Argentina?
More Jews were killed in Israel than any other place where Jews lived since the founding of Israel. In fact, more than everywhere else put together. So yeah, a Jew gets beaten. You know, I had a friend who unfortunately, a couple of friends, who were killed in Israel by terrorists. I had a friend in yeshiva who was pushed off the road. He was a Rabbi in Efrat. On his way, his wife was a cripple like for life, and he was killed. And you're asking, there are wars being fought all the time. In the War of Independence in 1948, 1% of every Jew that lived there was killed. Just do the math here in America. Now, and you're asking me, well, what about a Hasidic guy who gets punched sometimes in Williamsburg? Is that really a question?
What do those people do? I mean, they have nothing to do with Israel.
Nothing. What is
his point is that you're blaming anti-Semitism on Israel.
No, I'm not.
You're blaming anti-Semitism on Israel.
No, I'm not. I'm saying anti-Semitism is, I'm saying danger to Jews due to anti-Semitism or political conflict or whatever has different levels during different times and different places.
It says Esav Sonny Yaakov. It doesn't say Esav Sonny Yaakov in Rashi. It says Israel. Esav Sonny Yaakov everywhere.
Wait. During different times and different places. Yes, there's anti-Semitism everywhere. But when I say that Israel's a cause of political conflict that results in death of Jews, you can't ask me, well, there was anti-Semitism before Israel. If I tell you that cell phones cause cancer, and you tell me, well, no, there was cancer before cell phones.
That's not a good example. That's not a fair example.
It's a very fair example because I'm saying, respond to it. I'm saying that in Israel, because it's Israel, because of the conflict, Jews get killed. Well, how could anybody dispute that? That's much worse than what's going on in Williamsburg now.
Before the founding of the state, Jews weren't getting killed, and
no,
the Hebron massacre didn't happen.
Well, first of all,
died.
Listen to me. First of all, the Hebron massacre before Israel, of course, there was anti-Semitism. The Hebron massacre is a very bad example because that was both the British police and historians are unanimous that one of the big triggers of the Hebron massacre was Jabotinsky's Zionist youth. Oh, the fight over the Kaisel.
Rabbi, that's like saying that's like blaming a woman for getting beat up by her husband.
Well, no,
saying she deserved it.
No, I'm
that's
not.
Absurd,
no,
Rabbi.
it's
That's
not.
not a fair comparison.
No, it's not true. I'm not saying they deserved it. I'm talking about cause, not blame.
Yeah,
so if you go into some ethnic neighborhood and say you stupid and some ethnic racial epithets, you're going to get beaten up.
Correct.
It doesn't justify what they did, but you're an idiot for doing that. So the fact that I say that they caused it doesn't mean that they deserve to get retaliated against like that. However, they're stupid for doing it. Now,
listening to this, let's say they say, you know what, Rabbi, let's try your idea out. Where do you want 10 million Jews that live in Israel right now to go tomorrow?
It has nothing to do with, you know what I want? I'll tell you what I want. Few things. Thing number one. The biggest database of anti-Semitic data that exists in the world is in Tel Aviv University's Cantor Center. The ADL activists, these guys are scientists, okay? Every year they release a report on anti-Semitism all over the world. Invariably, I didn't see this year's report yet, but until this year's report, invariably, they say that when Israel gets involved in international conflict, when they do something that people don't like, whether they were right or wrong, anti-Semitism all over the world goes up. Country by country, they have a list, and they say the reason is because people conflate Israel with Jews. So the first thing I want is for Israel to change their policy. Israel has a policy that they just made a law to that effect, that Israel is not the nation state of its citizens, it's the nation state of all the Jews all over the world. Now, never mind the people who are not Jews in Israel. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about me, I'm talking about you. Israel claims to be my nation state. I want them to stop that. Because I want Israel to be the state of the Israelis, like every other country in the world. It's a false statement that they are my state. My mother was from England, my father's from Poland, I'm an American. How could somebody, against my will, claim that they're my state?
But again, they're not claiming against your will. They're claiming that if you want to move to Israel,
that's not true. It's not true. It's not true. They made a law. No, listen to me. They made a law.
Where do you want them to go? Tomorrow morning they're going to wake up.
I didn't say I want them to go anywhere. If you want to know what I do want, then listen. Number one, they do claim they're my state. Netanyahu came here to Congress talking about Barack Obama's Iran deal and said, I represent not only Israel, but the Jews all over the world. He does not represent me. Nobody elected him. They made a law that they are the nation state of all Jews all over. Not that merely I can come there if I want. That was true before the recent nation state law that they passed this past year.
State law was, in effect, it was a known thing anyways.
No, it was not. But you know what? I want them to change that. You're right. That is Zionist ideology.
Let's say they do.
So number one.
What's the plan, Rabbi?
Reduce anti-Semitism to whatever extent it does. It's completely unnecessary anti-Semitism. Two, I want them to stop calling themselves a Jewish state. I want them to stop with this policy that they represent the Jewish people. I want them to change their Declaration of Independence to say we're
abolish the law of return.
I want them to say that they are a state of their citizens. Maybe they don't have to call themselves Israel or call themselves Herzlstan or something, and be a regular country, because it's just factually untrue. It's unfair to the Jews all over the world and to the non-Jewish citizens there. But to the Jews all over the world, it's unfair for them to drag me into their nationalism. I just don't want it. That's all I'm asking. They can stay there if they want.
Rabbi, can I just...
All I want is for me to be able to stay here without having some country in the Middle East claim that it's my country, or that prime minister represents me. That's all I want.
So you're basically essentially saying that you want the national law of return to be abolished.
The law of return could change to match the law of return to other countries have. So Germans, I didn't say that. Actually, the only person that ever claimed anti-Semitism will disappear because of something with the Zionists. On the last page of Herzl's Der Judenstaat, the last page, he said as soon as Zionism gets off the ground, even before a state is created, anti-Semitism will disappear off the face of the earth. And Leo Pinsker said that before Herzl. The only people that claim that there's some political solution to anti-Semitism are the Zionists. Now that changed because the revisionists didn't believe that, and revisionists morphed into the Likud, so that ideology is out. But no, don't caricaturize what I'm saying. The issue is not anti-Semitism is going to disappear. Again, if I tell you don't use cell phones because they cause cancer, it doesn't mean cancer is going to disappear. That means life is going to be better for me, all right? Secondly, so they dispersed. They're gone. Secondly, if they want to make a law of return, you see, the Zionists, Al Dershowitz, Jason Greenblatt, Foxman, these guys, when they want to defend Israel's law of return against accusations of racism, they say, well, other countries have a law of return too. Germany, I think, has a law of return. The difference is this. The difference is that Germany's law of return says that anybody who was a German citizen, or their family was, they have a right to return to Germany. If you work for a company, the odds are not only you, but your family will be able to get benefits, right? But Israel doesn't do that. You see, Israel says it doesn't matter if you ever lived here or your family did. If you are a certain race, ethnicity, however the Zionists define Jewishness, not religion, if you are a certain race or ethnicity or however they define Jewishness, then randomly, even if you have nothing to do with this country, you can come back. If they want to have a law of return, they can have a law of return like any other country does in the world, like Germany's. But all I'm saying is, stop this business. It's a liability. Stop this business that you are connected to all the Jews all over the world. Don't say on your website of the Ministry of Internal Affairs that France is to the French, like Israel.
I understand what you're saying.
That's all. That's all I want.
Sit down with the Iranian prime minister like other people do.
You mean like Netanyahu sits down with Eastern European anti-Semites? Wait, no. Wait. What is Neturei Karta? It depends for what. If I'm not friends with
an anti-Zionist, a show, a conference, like you had in.
Make it this way.
You have to ask them. I'm not Neturei Karta. You'd have to ask them. Why would you ask me?
But does it upset you as you when you see that sitting?
Listen, you're changing the subject to no. We're discussing over here what we're doing here. Yes. So don't tell me go condemn this one or that one. I'm not interested. Yeah. So let me just tell you the difference, okay? We are not involved at all with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In fact, it's people ask me all the time when
you do call for the dissolution of the Jewish state.
No, I do.
I don't know. That's what you said. Go ahead. Finish. I'm sorry.
You see, this is part of the problem. You see what he said? You call for this, you call for that. That's stereotyping of Jews.
Well, that's what you're saying.
Now, so
let me has nothing to do with Neturei Karta.
No, nothing. Now, the difference between other anti-Zionist Jews and Neturei Karta is that Neturei Karta involves themselves in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict on the side of the Palestinians. To me, as I explained, Israel has as much to do with me as China does. And if China would claim to be the state of the Jews or to represent the Jewish people, do you think any Jew would go to, let's say, I don't know, China has a conflict with Japan. Do you think any Jew would go to Japan with Japanese flags to protest against? No. Why? Because what do you care what those guys say? That is our attitude towards Israel. And I am no more obligated to take a side or even to know which side is right or wrong than I am in any other human rights issue all over the world. So you asked the difference between these people and the Neturei Karta. That's the difference. This has nothing to do with Israeli politics. This has to do with something very simple. One, Israel is not the state of the Jewish people. It's a unilateral claim that they make, which is false. You cannot claim to be my state against my will. You can't. It's just not true. Number one. And therefore...
But isn't that like saying Trump is not my president? He is the president. Israel's there.
Wait.
Israel's not going anywhere, whether you like it or not.
Neither is China, but China's not my state. If China would claim to be my state, I would say it's not, and you would say, well, China's there. No, Trump was elected by this body politic to be the president. Whether I voted for him or not, I agreed that whoever wins the election, I will accept as president, correct? Okay. But I did not agree. The Jews did not agree. Israel should be their state. You can't say that you're my state. Yeah, Israel's there. You see, you got to get out of this mindset that the issue is get rid of Israel. Or like you said, dismantle, get rid of... No, that's not the point. The point is that's what? I didn't say any such thing now. The point is Israel's policy, Israel's claim, their ideology to be a Jewish state or the Jewish state or the nation state of the Jewish people. As a Jew, I say that's just not true. So let them call themselves Herzlstan. Become a regular country like everybody else.
But they kept all the mitzvahs and the Shabbos, everything was closed. Would that be an answer also?
No, it would not. They still wouldn't represent me. Jews are not...
Part of the argument I always hear over here is they're not Jewish because, because of the Shabbos issues, they're too secular. But
let me unpack.
If they acted...
No. Let me unpack.
Be the answer?
That's not really the case. The first half of what you said is true, the second is not. The problem is what we call... The reason to mention Israel's irreligiosity is what we call Chilul Hashem. If a Jew does something bad, in front of people, it's a Chilul Hashem. Even though everybody knows all nations, all religions have sinners, nevertheless, you're in your uniform, you represent us, and people will extrapolate to everybody else. If a greater number of Jews does something collectively, it's a greater Chilul Hashem. The worst possible Chilul Hashem that exists in the world today is if a country that claims to represent the Jews, that says Japan is to the Japanese what Israel is to the Jews, they publicly display, communicate to the world, you do not need to be religious. If I go to Poland and they ask me, do you want kosher food? And I say no, I'm a sinner. That's a Chilul Hashem if it's a public thing. When Netanyahu does that, and he did, that's a much worse Chilul Hashem, because he's perceived as the prime minister of the Jewish state. And what happens is, when they want, this actually happened.
He got kosher.
Correct. When they wanted to, he said, we don't need it. He had kosher style, whatever that is. When they wanted to prohibit the Shechita in Poland, and there was a debate about it in the parliament, so it was brought up, they said, well, Shechita really isn't important to the Jews. Netanyahu didn't want it. A Knesset member, Aliza Lavi, brought this up in Israel. So the fact that people need to understand that Israel isn't the Jewish state is in order to avoid the Chilul Hashem factor. It's like the Vatican doing something against Christianity. If a Christian does something against Christianity, okay, let's say that's a Chilul of Christianity. But if the Vatican would, that would be much worse. Israel basically claims to be the Vatican of the Jewish people, meaning they represent...
Rabbi, I just want to make one more point there. Go ahead, finish your point, and I'm going to explain to you why Israel is a Jewish state.
That's the reason for telling people that Israel isn't religious, because people shouldn't think that Israel's behavior is Jewish behavior. Now there's a second thing. Even if they would all be religious, right? Even if Netanyahu would be Milakovsky, Milanovsky, and he would be religious, and across the board, Israel still does represent the Jewish people. They're still not the state of the Jews. People say that, well, there's only one Jewish state and many Muslim states. But there really are no Muslim states in the sense that Israel claims to be the Jewish one. Because there are no Muslims. No.
Wait, there's no Muslim states?
Listen to me. I'm going to ask you to please refrain from preconceived. The Mashiach comes. I didn't mention.
I ask you, when will it be?
No. Israel is not the Jewish. There is no such thing as any country representing all the Jews and only the Jews. When David HaMelech had a country, correct? If there was a non-Jew living in that country, Jerusalem was his capital too, correct? So it wasn't the capital of the Jews. It was the capital of David's country, right? Israel will never represent the Jewish people, even if it's religious. Nationality is not what makes us into a people. Jews are not a nationality. That's Zionism, and that's why the rabbis from the beginning opposed Zionism even without a state. Israel Zangwill said, better Zionism without Zion than Zion without Zionism, meaning it's better to have the ideology of Zionism even without a state than to have a state without the ideology of Zionism. The ideology of Zionism says, 1, Jews are a nationality, not a religion. That is identity theft. That is a wicked attack on Jewish identity. And that's the main objection to Zionism. Two, that not only the Jews a nationality. The Kurds are a nationality, they don't have a state, but they're a nationality, and Israel is their state. And Israel is their state. These two claims that Israel makes, number one, that the Jews are a nationality, and two, Israel is their state, those two claims are the crux of Zionism.
Amen.
That Jews, as Jews, who insert themselves in Israel's politics, political conflicts, are reinforcing the perception that Israel is connected to the Jews. Because why? There are human rights issues all over the world, yet you choose as a Jew to insert yourself in this particular one. Why? To me, this is Israel's China, China's China, Japan is Japan.
All these people here, if God forbid there's any issues, there's any problems, if anybody ever becomes a refugee here, all these people have a safe haven in Israel. No matter what. You saw the problem in Crimea with the Russians. Who sent planes to pick up these people? All these people can go to Israel.
Israel claims much more than what you just said. We discussed that a little while ago. Israel claims much more. Israel doesn't claim it's a Jewish state because of that. If they would, we could discuss it. But that's not their claim.
Rabbi, you would be safe in Israel. You wouldn't be a refugee.
That's not their claim.
What's your closing statement of people watching this? What do you want the viewer to know and to see?
One, Israel is the state of the Israelis, not the state of the Jewish people. The Jewish people are not responsible for what the state of Israel does, and Israel doesn't speak in our name. Israel, we have a fundamental war with Zionism as to what Jewish identity is. Israel wants Jewish identity to be nationality. And to that end, they trying to draft the boys and the girls and do various propaganda in order to convince the Jews and the non-Jews, one, that the Jews are a nationality, and two, that Israel's their state. Those are false. And we're going to fight whatever Israel tries to do in order to convey that message, because that message is false. And besides being false, it's also dangerous to the Jews all over the world, including in Israel. That's a closing statement.
Thank you, Rabbi Shkoyer. Thank you. In Argentina, when the Jewish cultural center got bombed, what did the Argentinians do? They did nothing. Okay. What did the Israelis do?
What did they do?
They killed the people all behind it.
Okay.
So I mean, this is Israel, Jews. They're helping out Jews across the world.
And what did they do with the Yemenite Jews that came to Israel? And what did they do with the Tehran Jews? Now when they made Jerusalem, let's go back to Jerusalem, the capital. So a Jew gets stabbed. Avigdor Lieberman didn't say, when they asked him about it, he didn't say, like you're saying, they would have gotten stabbed anyway. He said, we're willing to pay the price in order for Jerusalem to be the capital. No. See, that's the difference between a Zionist and a Jew. To the Jew,
do you go to Israel?
Human life is worth more than making this city your stupid capital.
Do you go to Israel?
To them, their ideology of Zionism is worth much more than Jewish blood.
My question is, do you travel to Israel?
I was there.
You go to the holy places, Hebron, Marat HaMachpelah, Kever Rachel?
The holy places, really, usually when I go, I have only time to go to the real holy places.
Toldot Aharon Yeshiva and Mas Yarim.
The big yeshivas and the great gedolim. Those are the real holy places.
And who makes that possible for you to go to Israel and visit those places, Rabbi?
God.
Okay, good answer.
Don't think so?
He does, but
there you go.
God, but who's his messenger?
I don't understand. Don't you Zionists go running around saying that all Israel wars are miracles and everything?
Of course.
So Israel doesn't help us, God does. If not, that's all. You guys say so yourself.
Rabbi, there's a shaliach. There's God shaliach. Who's
God shliach? A miracle isn't a shliach, right? Is that what you claim? That they're not shluchim, they're actually victims that God pulls their fat out of their fat. The truth of the matter is, 6-day war wasn't a miracle. That's silly.
It wasn't. What
please?
The liberation of the Kotel, Hebron.
Not only was it not a.
Why was it not a miracle?
Because
my father was there. My father fought there. He wasn't a paratrooper. He's in Yerushalayim.
Okay. Did you speak to the generals? Did you speak to the prime ministers? Did you read Tom Segev's 1967?
Tom Segev. I read Segev's 67.
Benny Morris? Did you read?
Benny Morris I've read.
CIA.gov, the CIA's website,
That I did not
where
read.
the CIA told Johnson, by the way,
Did you read Michael Oren's book?
I have a quote
Michael
from the
Oren.
Satmar Rebbe that's not printed anywhere, that I heard from somebody who heard from him. The CIA told Johnson, it's on the CIA's website now, CIA.gov,
I know what they
that
told
they told him that even if Egypt attacks first, Israel will wipe them out in a matter of days.
Can I finish the quote? Boy, can I finish the quote?
Go ahead.
And what did Johnson say? He goes, how come my generals know more about everybody else's conflict than except my own?
No, excuse me.
That's what Johnson said.
Excuse me.
To
I don't know where you got...
McNamara said the Israelis would lick them.
You know why? Because I'll tell you
and
why.
Johnson
I'll tell
said,
you why.
what do my generals know? They came when all...
Because that was an easy question that Israel would wipe them out. It was easy. No, everybody knew. Now, you know what the Satmar Rebbe said? Heard this from Wolf Katz? He heard from Satmar Rebbe. So Johnson knew Israel would win, right? So he said if the war was a nest, Johnson must be a Navi. Did you hear that crazy story that a Beryl Wine says over that in West Point they don't teach about the 6-Day War because they don't teach about miracles? Did you ever hear that?
No, but it's a good joke.
Good. It's not a joke. They take it seriously.
I can disagree about that, Rabbi. I'm happy that we can go to Hebron, to Kever Rachel, Ma'arat HaMachpelah, HaKotel, Harabayit, everything, because no, you couldn't have. You could have gone.
In the 80s, but before Zionism?
You could have, but you couldn't blow the shofar there, Rabbi.
Oh yeah, you're right. Jabotinsky youth tried to blow the shofar at the Kotel.
And they got arrested. And they got beat up.
Of course they got arrested because that was a provocation.
That's a provocation.
It was a big provocation.
To blow the shofar by the Kotel is a provocation.
If the Kotel is legally, according to the British mandate, under the sovereignty of the Arabs, and according to the British police, you should not do such provocations. Then yeah, it is illegal.
So now, to this day and age,
why did they do it? Was it Rosh Hashanah? No,
I don't know.
I think. But they did it in order to provoke. You blow a shofar.
Rabbi, it sounds like you have battered wife syndrome, Rabbi. It's like you're blaming the woman for getting beat up.
I explained that to you. It's not blaming the woman for getting beat up. But if you go around provoking people randomly, you're crazy, even though you don't deserve getting hurt because of it. If I go over to this guy, this is a nice guy, looks like a nice guy. But if I go over to him and punch him in the nose, he'll probably punch me back, and he looks stronger than me. I don't deserve to get. Maybe he'll pull out a gun and shoot me, all right?
Possibly,
I
Rabbi.
don't deserve to get shot.
I'm stronger than you because I would fight for Israel.
Oh, you see, Rabbi, now he got you, man.
So you see, no, he didn't.
He said he's going to fight for Israel, my man. Yes.
See, he probably would beat me up.
Well, he's a Jew. He's
Yaakov Dahan. They fought for Israel too. Look what they did to him.
Well, Yaakov Dahan was upset that the Zionists didn't give him enough chavod. So he decided to become Meshuggah and anti-Zionist. That's another story, Rabbi. Either way, Rabbi, God bless you, man. Thank you. The most important thing is you guys did this legally. You did it with a permit. You got your message across. And it's America. You exercise your democratic right to protest, which is only here in America. In Israel, you could do the same thing if you get a permit. No, if you get a permit. Rabbi, if you get a permit. What would you say to the people that say Jews out of Israel or Jews out of Europe? People say Jews get out of Europe, go back to Israel. Then you have people that say Jews get out of Israel, go back to Europe. Where you come from?
Well,
where should the Jews go?
Well, Jews shouldn't go anywhere. So I would suggest, therefore, that Israel stop saying after their tragedies, like in France or in Denmark, when Netanyahu goes there and he says the solution is Jews should go to Israel. The Jewish communities in Paris and in Denmark condemned Netanyahu because he said it only makes them trouble. I would suggest that the rabbi in the Zionist rabbis in America should not claim that they have loyalty to the state of Israel.
But Air France, when an Air France plane gets hijacked
from Israel,
no, from Greece, no, from Greece to France, from Greece to France. We know the flight 130. So when a plane gets hijacked, the French wash their hands from it. Who sends their commandos to save the Jews?
The same people. The same people that murdered Yaakov Dahan. Yeah. Who murdered Yaakov Dahan?
Yaakov Dahan.
The Zionists.
Yaakov Dahan had his own issues. He was a pedophile.
Excuse me. Yaakov Dahan was murdered by Avram Tahomi.
Yeah, I know. The head of the Irgun.
And he wasn't the head.
He was. Avram was the first.
He wasn't the head. Whatever. He was interviewed in Japan, and he said that he did it because it was ordered. It was ordered by Ben Zvi even.
Yeah.
And he did it because... And
A letter from him.
Mr.
Dahan was a pedophile.
And he did it... No, he wasn't.
He was.
The Zionists claim he was.
That's a Zionist lie.
Avram Dahomi says he did it because he put Zionism in danger. They didn't care about him being whatever he was. They cared about one thing. Because he dared to contradict Zionism. For that, he deserved to die. So you know what? They save some, they kill some. Please, do me a favor. Bottom line is, it's safer in America, safer anywhere Jews live.
Not in Europe, man. That's why.
Yes, it is.
Rabbi, bottom line, closing statement is, Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Lazeh, V'aftal Erecha Kamocha. Irreverent, if you're a Zionist, if you're not a Zionist, we're all Jews, we're all responsible
Didn't
for
you
each other.
just justify the killing of a Jew, Yaakov Dahan? I said they killed Yaakov Dahan. He said, well, he had other problems. Is that V'aftal Erecha Kamocha?
No.
A Jew is murdered, and you say, well, he was a pedophile. That's the answer.
Hold
Do you
on, Rabbi.
understand what you said?
Hold on, I understand what I'm saying.
Wow.
But Mr. Dahan was a big antagonist.
Wow.
He was a security threat. Dahan was a security threat.
A security threat.
He was a security threat.
So they killed him.
Israelis, yes,
With a trial. He was a security threat. It's security.
I'm not saying he was justified.
Unless the Zionists consider them a security threat.
No.
I said over here that the Zionists said, there are Zionist officials in the government that said the Haredi community is a greater threat, an existential threat to Zionism, which is exactly what Tahomi said as to why he killed Dahan. Okay?
Nobody's killing Haredis.
Excuse me. Not yet.
Never,
okay?
Rabbi.
Nobody's killing Dahan. That's what they said beforehand. They said, well, after Dahan was killed, the Zionists deny it. Or who blew up the Iraqi restaurants and threw a grenade into a synagogue to herd the Iraqi Jews into Israel? Well, did you ever hear of the Lavon affair?
Lavon affair? Of course we heard of the Lavon affair.
You know that Israel denied
isolated,
for 50 years.
Isolated incident.
Israel denied.
Every government
denies that. Nobody.
Every government has a flaw.
1 second.
Rabbi, everybody is flawed.
It's not a question of flawed.
Everybody's flawed,
It's not a question of flawed. It's a question of attacking your own people and fear-mongering against your own people. Yeah, let's say America's flawed. Iran, Iraq, whatever, maybe they shouldn't go to war, whatever it is. But you tell me one thing, and you're defending Zionism under the guise of they're the biggest Jew haters, their biggest enemies are Jews, the Tehran children, the Yemenite children, the Yaakov Dahan, the Lavon affair. Now, they denied
I'm not saying the Zionists are perfect. Nobody said they're perfect.
Perfect? You're talking about murderers, people that blew up.
I mean, there was slavery in America. There was slavery in America was founded on. There's a lot of things were wrong.
But America didn't glorify the slave owners. But Israel, after 50 years of denying it, honored the people who blew up the places in Egypt under the Lavon affair. That's the difference. Do you know that Israel has streets named after terrorists?
What terrorists?
Did you hear of?
The Irgun, of course. David Raziel, I know.
Exactly.
These are people. The King David. That's another issue, Rabbi.
That's not another issue.
The King David. There was warnings about the King David.
Israel claims there was,
there were 100%.
Israel.
There is tape. Rabbi, there were tapes. You weren't there either. There were tapes.
But
there's tapes.
No, there's
there is tapes.
There's
so
not.
Why was the Palestine Post evacuated? Why was the French embassy evacuated?
No.
Why?
No.
I'll tell you why.
No.
Because the guy said, I don't take orders from Jews. I give orders to the Jews. That's what the guy said.
No.
Whatever. That's all about history, Rabbi.
Not only that, but the whole Hebron massacre. They don't care about Jewish lives. Look, let me ask you something. Forget about history. Let's talk about today, all right? Israel just recently declared Jerusalem their capital, right? Avigdor, now...
What's wrong with that?
Shortly thereafter, a Jew was stabbed in the Tachana Merkazit, and a Jew
would have been stabbed either way.
No. You see, so what you're saying is that if I go to a bunch of anti-Semites and say, you bleeping, stupid anti-Semites, and I get beaten up, they would have beaten me up anyway? You see, that's the problem. No.
Of course they would. Of course they would.
So why is it that, according to Tel Aviv's Cantor University, whenever Israel gets into a controversy, anti-Semitism goes up, and whenever they're at peace, anti-Semitism goes down?
You think that's a fact?
It's a statistical fact.
Okay.